We welcome you to our session, and it's so nice to be around people that like to hear more about how we're trying to strengthen practice at the intersection of the social work, law and practice. So the Learning Bench, a collaborative learning interventions designed to support social work students and law pupils in developing their understanding, knowledge, skills and confidence in applying social work law to practice, with a particular emphasis on child protection. So the Learning Bench is not just about one profession teaching the other, it's about learning with and from each other. By bringing these professions together and during training, we hope to create and foster a greater understanding, confidence and collaboration in working with real complex issues. We hope this offers a useful example of interdisciplinary practice and inspires future practice across the nation and internationally. Next slide, please, Gavin. Thank you so much. So before we go on and move on to talk about what we've done, we'd like to introduce you to some of the core members of the Learning Bench team. So this was an entirely collaborative effort, and so we wanted to present together in order to reflect this. So starting from the left, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Claire Yates, my wonderful colleague. Claire is a lecturer, senior lecturer, and our social work skills lead here at Canterbury Christchurch University. She has over 20 years experience in children and families and has also been a team manager. She brings a wealth of frontline experiences and leadership in relation to child protection practice and is an overall fantastic person. Next is myself. So I am Lauren Martins. I'm also a senior lecturer at CCCU. I currently lead the BA social work programme here over in Canterbury as a course director. My background includes criminal justice social work. So I was a probation officer, senior probation officer, team manager in Kent. I specialise in domestic abuse and working with domestic abuse perpetrators. I've also worked as a mental health social worker and in police custody as well. Third across the screen here is the wonderful Joanne Porter, who is a barrister. She was called to bar in 2010 following a successful career as a solicitor in public law children matters. So Jo now represents parties in public law and adoption cases and is actually a published author as well, with Child Protection Proceedings, Care and Adoption Orders, which is now in its third edition. And last but by no means least is Hayley Lloyd, an experienced social worker with a background in child protection and related fields. So currently Hayley works as an independent social worker, undertaking fostering assessments, court guardianship work, practice education and parenting assessments. She has a strong commitment to the safety and well-being of children and families and has been invaluable in shaping the Learning Bench. So it's an absolute pleasure to be presenting alongside such strong women. So thank you. I'd like to hand over now to Hayley.
Thank you, Lauren. So following on from what Lauren said, really the purpose of our session today is really kind of just to explain, essentially how we all came together as different fields, bringing all of our expertise and experience from real life evidence giving to being in the courtroom, working with families, and really kind of putting that together for students in the university, I guess really to prepare them to think about what the realities of court might look like for them, because I think sometimes when you're at university, it can be really difficult to mentalise what that might look like. So we brought that all together and into a real life mock court experience where we all participate, Jo, myself, Lauren and Claire, and support students to really think about their critical thinking, their professional identity and what type of practitioner that they want to be. Next slide, please. So the journey, which we'll come on to a bit later, kind of really thinks about the gap that was identified within the university, and it allowed us to think about a bit of a plan of how we can really bring this to life. We will touch on a bit of the journey as well, how we kind of got from the very, very beginning of the thought process through our journey, and then the impact that we feel that it's having on our kind of students and then our newly qualified practitioners within their roles as social workers. Thank you. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Hayley. So just to give you a bit of background and context, our university is in Canterbury, so right at the bottom of South East England, and we deliver pre-registration BA and MA social work courses. We currently have over 180 students studying with us, which is great. Our student cohort reflects a really diverse background with lots of experience and different people coming to join us. For example, we have people coming straight from school, having done A-levels or BTEC or International Baccalaureate. And we also have people returning to education maybe after a break, having looked through a different career pathway maybe, and joining us at a later point in their life. So at the moment, 2/3 of our students identify as global majority, and over half of our students are aged 30 and over. And this profile really gives us passion and drive to think creatively about their experience, because we're really mindful of not only providing social work training and education to enable students to reach qualification and registration, but an education and experience that really sets people up for a long and impactful social work career. Thank you, Kate. Next slide.
Hey, and so the gap, let's talk about the gap. Just putting my camera back on. There we go. So social work has a special regulator, as we know, Social Work England, and that requires students to complete 200 placement days to meet their professional registration requirements for following their qualification. So Social Work England allows higher education institutes, so their universities, to provide 30 of these days as dedicated social work skills days throughout the course. And so the aims of these days is to help create structured learning opportunities that help students apply that classroom learning to practice and develop the skills that they need for placements and future frontline work. So this sounds great in theory, right? Yeah, this sounds like amazing learning opportunities, but what's actually happening on the ground within an institution? What actually counts as a core skills day? How is that learning actually contributing to that wider learning and skills development? So I joined the university in 2021, fresh out of practice, feeling fired up and ready to change things, to help try and prepare students for that future social work life. So between that 2021 and 2022 period, myself and some of the colleagues in the social work team at the time began to identify some areas of improvement with the quality, consistency and the educational impact of our existing skills day provision. I was teaching on the law module at the time, and so I had lecturer observations. I was looking at assessment outcomes and how well students were doing and what their written work was like. I was talking to students and getting to know students about what their experiences were here on the ground. How are they finding things? We were looking at student surveys from module outcomes, so at the end of the law module, safeguarding modules. We were also looking at national student surveys, so the PTES or the NSS, which is the National Student Surveys. But we began to identify some gaps in theoretical knowledge, legal knowledge, and the ability to actually apply that in practice. At the time for our skills days, in order to evidence that our students have had skills days, they would have to do some reflections on what they have actually done. And I found that students were approaching me and saying, Lauren, I just don't understand. What's the difference between a traditional lecture and a skills day? And to be honest, I was unclear as well. The law skills days, for example, consisted of a really helpful solicitor come in and deliver a workshop on court etiquette, but it was mainly a PowerPoint deck, a bit like this, running through just expectations. The gap was that students weren't actually getting that opportunity to try it out, to walk into a courtroom, to address a judge, to know where to stand, to know what to say, to know how to address people. So they weren't getting that opportunity to practice and bring those skills to life. So we began to think, okay, what can we do? We began to do literature searches of what's going on in other universities, nationally and internationally, to see if we could get any inspiration. So yeah, it was really, really helpful. Feedback from our external stakeholders, so our employers and our placement partners, also highlighted some concerns in relation to professional confidence, procedural understanding, and professional presence in the context of that application of law and policy. So this is us being entirely honest, because things are not rosy all the time, right? We need to continually work and develop. So we began to work together and realise that something needs to change, and let's see what we can do to help build this. So this made it clear that we needed now this is my favourite word ever, pedagogically robust, practice-informed redesign of our skills-based learning here. So this became an immediate priority and led to the direct creation of the learning bench. Next slide, please, Gavin.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lauren. So we worked out what the gap was, that we needed to be thinking maybe a little bit differently and a little bit better about our skill day. And we were really mindful that we needed to draw on some theory to underpin our thinking and to evidence why we were going to look at the plan in the way we did. So we particularly thought about the importance of scaffolding, so thinking about one step at a time, not expecting everything to happen in one moment, but building things really gradually, moving from a position of needing to be directed and helped at every point to maybe thinking a bit more independently about action and experience. And in this context, we were really thinking about the value of play. And when we think about that in higher education, we're definitely thinking about learning through the experience of doing, maybe trying things out, maybe feeling things that have come from situations. And all of that happens in a really safe environment where we were certainly present, but also students had the value of having other people in the same learning situation as them. So we think simulation in this particular skill provision was really important. So beginning to apply knowledge, maybe things that people had learnt during the safeguarding module or in the law module, and really thinking about what that looks like in practice and placement. And we're really mindful that our skill time provision needs to support students in preparing for those important times. And importantly, as Lauren said, we thought about student feedback. So what were they telling us is important in learning and being ready for placement and being ready for practice? And that really fed into our co-design. We also really thought carefully about who else needed to be involved, knowing that we didn't have all the expertise, were there other people that we could draw in as part of our team? Thank you, Kate. Next slide.
Okay, so the intervention. So what are we actually doing here then? We're trying to set the scene for you. What do students do? So the Learning Bench is a 3-day simulated court skills learning experience designed to develop legal literacy and practical skills in child protection. So we use a child protection case study, which was co-designed with barristers and with social work together to look at how students can build their knowledge and understanding of the court process. So this includes evidence, protocol, decision making, for example, like thresholds, and ultimately it ends with a mock court trial to see their learning in action. So on days 1 and 2, students participate in interactive workshops led by barristers, solicitors, experienced social workers and members of the academic team. So we're kind of scaffolding their learning gradually without trying to intimidate and scare students, because court's scary, right? So they even have a unique opportunity across these days to meet a real life practicing judge. And then they take part in a questions and answers session with the judge just to make it more human, more interactive. So these sessions give students insights into the different professional roles. They allow them to explore real life challenges, and they help them to understand how the law and social work practice intersect. So Hayley, for example, comes along and delivers a session on dealing with emotional evidence, as it can be really emotive, can't it? So once we've gradually scaffolded the learning, and this takes place over 3 weeks, so we have week 1, week 2, week 3, with 1 day per week, normally on a Thursday, alongside their social work, law and safeguarding modules, so they can kind of see the bridge as they're learning the legal application in the classroom. Now, during day 3 in the actual simulation, students take on professional roles such as social worker, children's guardian, and even ushers, which allows them to experience different kind of perspectives within the court protection system. Some students may not wish to volunteer to participate, and that's absolutely fine. We don't pressurise any students to do anything like that they're not comfortable with, and they can take part in sitting in the gallery as well. So this is just a real opportunity for students to apply that learning from the law and safeguarding modules, linking that theoretical knowledge to practice decision making. And so by participating in these workshops, engaging in that role play and experiencing the mock trial, students develop that professional confidence, strengthen their understanding of the legal processes, and gain insight into the practical application of the law and safeguarding in child protection practice. Next slide, please.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lauren. So we thought we'd show you the really short video that we have on day 1. And Joe will tell us a bit more about the video shortly. But we begin with the short video, and it's kind of representative of some body-worn footage of a visit to the family home at a point of crisis, all of which sets the context for the court hearing and the paperwork that will be pulled together. Kate, I wonder if we can play the video. Would that be okay? So I'm really mindful that the Oscars took place last night. I will not win one for my acting ability here, but just to give you a bit of an idea about what the students would see on their first day. And we found this to be really impactful in terms of giving first-hand knowledge of what that might have looked like. And certainly when we come to think about the paperwork and drawing together the evidence, we felt that it added real value into what students were able to see, kind of from a first-hand perspective, rather than being given that information just from us at the front. Great, thank you, Kate. We can go on to the next slide.
Okay, and so similarly, I've created a video here with Claire of just giving you a tour of the courtroom that we use here at Canterbury Christchurch University. So yes, if you could play the video, please, Kate, that would be great. Okay, so welcome to our CCCU courtroom. So I'm going to give you a tour of our facilities and what our students will see on their final mock court day, which is day 3 of our skills days intervention. So follow me and let's have a look. So we're going to go through this big door and we're going to enter the courtroom. So our students will be greeted by ushers, and for reality we have where the judges sit over here. Down here we will have advocates sitting down. The person giving evidence and being cross-examined will sit over here. And our other students that wish to observe will be in the gallery, which is over here. So this is a whole day of reality court skills where students are giving evidence, being cross-examined, and they work in tag teams. So they're not sitting over there doing the whole thing, which could be quite intimidating. And yes, welcome to our courtroom. Thank you. Next slide, please. So here's some pictures of our students participating in the court skills intervention. So we have Thomas here on the far left being cross-examined, and next to him you'll see there is a judge and there is one of our core team there supporting Thomas. on the picture in the middle, we also have our student Vicky, who is also tag teaming with Thomas to give it a go and being very brave, standing in the dock. And as you can see, it's quite a realistic process. So where I was sitting there taking the picture is the kind of gallery for students that haven't had a turn yet, or are waiting their turn, or would just like to watch. So that is what it looks like in action. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the journey. And like I said at the beginning, this has developed over the years, and we're now in our 4th year of delivery. So we've just run our 4th set of days. So Joe and I will be sharing the journey of the development and delivery now. We've gradually tweaked and refined based on our observations, and also feedback from students as well. So it's very much ended up being like co-developed and delivered with students. So, like I've said, back in May 2022, the course director at the time of social work at the BA course, and I met with someone called Louise Duckett, who had been highly recommended for her contribution to legal education. We arranged an initial meeting where we shared our observation and our concerns that I mentioned in the gap slide, and we discussed a vision for court skills intervention based on research that we had looked at internationally, and also just based on our professional observations. Now, when I was in my ASYE year, 2 weeks into the role, I was in court representing someone else's case. I had no idea what I was doing. I did not agree with the report. I felt like a rabbit in headlights, and I didn't want students to ever feel like that. And that made me think back to my training and what could I do to help, or what could we do as a team do to help students prepare for the realities of social work, because court takes up quite a lot of our time, right? So I had that thought in mind, and I articulated that. And I was also studying for a qualification at the time, my PG cap, and I was looking at literature reviews, looking at how other universities do things. And there was lots of different things different universities were doing, but no one seemed to be doing something that we wanted to do, this 3-day scaffolding, ending up with that final mock skills day. There's been lots of research out there in terms of America in training lawyers as well, in terms of using mock courts, but there was very limited data on what we are doing to help social work students in particularly. And we were thinking, we've got this courtroom on campus, why are we not using it? Let's create something. So Louise was absolutely phenomenal. She was brilliant. These ideas couldn't have been launched without her help. She had lots of creative ideas. She had lots of contacts. She was a key connector with access to solicitors and law pupils who volunteered their time for free to help run the court skills days. So her expertise and her networks were absolutely invaluable in shaping this intervention and making it a practical, sustainable learning experience for our students. So what we did next as a team is we maintained regular contact. We started to design a court bundle, making it as realistic as possible of what you would get if you were there in court, with case notes, statements, witness statements. We were trying to make it as realistic as possible. Then we delivered the court skills days around October, November time 2022. This was a pilot to MA students first of all. And like I said, this took place on Thursdays for 3 weeks in line with the law module at the time. And feedback was fantastic from students. They reported finding the sessions really informative. They really valued that chance to apply their learning. They liked being outside of that traditional classroom. So as a course team, we spoke a bit more about what can we do, and we wanted our BA students to have the opportunity as well. So in the summer of 2023, which was the same academic year that the MA students had this intervention, we delivered it to them as well. So allowing us to extend these benefits to the wider cohort. In the following academic year, we aim to kind of create a greater social work community by combining the MA and the BA students together for the court skills days. So this allowed students at different stages of learning to collaborate, share their perspectives and their ideas, learn from each other's experiences, creating a more richer and more authentic learning environment. But we did find that there was an issue with this. Like I said, it's not all rosy and clear cut. We had issues along the way. So we found that this limited role opportunities for people to take on court roles, which therefore ended up resulting in tag teams, which was a student suggestion. This helped to alleviate some student anxieties and enabled more students to participate in different roles. So one student could do a little bit, like we saw on the picture of Thomas, and then Vicky could take over and have a go as well. So it created more wider learning opportunities, and it used that power of peer support to take some of the pressure off. Kate, can we just play that video there where it says meeting with Joe Porter, who's going to take us through the 2024-2025 developments? Thank you.
So I first became involved in the course as a lecturer. So I undertook some of the sessions when Louise Duckett was in charge of the course. And once she then became unable to carry on, I took over from her in relation to the organisation of things. And so working with Claire and Lauren, we looked at the feedback that the students had provided over the last couple of years. And one of the intentions of the course was to try and give the social work students an idea of the process from beginning to end. And also it would mean that they could see things from the legal perspective. So a very artificial court setting, which is difficult for anybody, no matter how used to giving evidence you are, but also looking as to how important that process is and how important the documents are, and looking at the child protection process all the way through. So the students would come to our session, it was hoped, with some understanding of some of the law, but to make sure that they knew the basics. We made sure that we could go through all of the process from the threshold in the Children Act, taking them through drafting so that they understood the importance of the documents that are produced, all the way through to the evidence. So from my perspective, it was hoped that social workers, when they are in practice, would know exactly what the process is from the legal perspective, so that they could better prepare themselves for what can be a very difficult situation. So one of the things that Lauren and Claire and I did was have a look at the course as it had been set up over the 2 years. And one of the things that I noticed was that when I was teaching, that the students didn't really have a visual idea of what had happened. So as you will have seen, we have done police protection through to the ICO hearing. So what we decided to do was prepare the film so that there could be a visual understanding of the situation that the social worker had gone into. So when we then speak to the students about the drafting, speak to them about what needs to go into the statements, it was hoped that that would help them to think about things. And obviously, as they get through to the evidence, they would then have a picture in their mind in relation to the situation that they'd gone into. So again, throughout the course, we were mindful of making it too sterile, so making sure that it was realistic. And what we did at the last session that we undertook with the video was we split the students into 2 teams, so one for local authority, one for parent, with the aim that they could look at the situation from both perspectives, which obviously the judge will be doing. The judge will be stepping back and looking independently. And that was quite successful. And what we did find, interestingly, was the sorts of discussions that we would hope came out of that from the video, looking at the different perspectives that people were going to be arguing from. And ultimately, we did see a difference in the decisions that the social work students thought the court should make, whether the interim care order with separation should be granted or not. So hopefully what we want to be able to do is make sure that the social work students have a good idea as to what they will be looking at, right from what is court, who the personnel are. We have the Judges' Day so that the students can see that judges are human, but also understand from their perspective as to what they're looking for. and similarly with the lawyers. We also this year used some pupils, so some training barristers and also a newly qualified social worker to represent the parties in the mock trial. So that gave them experience as well, made it less intimidating, hopefully, in terms of the social work students that gave evidence, but again meant that they could both learn from each other, speak to each other when we have lunch break, for example, so that everybody can learn from different disciplines, which again was what we hoped to be able to achieve from the course.
Next slide, please. Okay, so the collaborative process. So we initiated this collaboration because each partner brings a unique expertise that no single group could have provided on its own. So within our academic team, we have the first-hand knowledge of court proceedings. Most of us are registered social workers within the social work team, and we bring understandings of criminal and family law contexts. However, those like Joe and Louise in the legal professions operate under different codes of practice. They have different training and different roles within the court proceedings. So delivering this entirely on our own as a social work team would have probably lacked validity and like true representative of what it's like they're out there. So students have gained insight into social work practice, but they might have missed how legal professionals and views and experience the same processes. So bringing in the law pupils was absolutely fantastic because they were learning from social work students. They were cross-examining and the social work students, and the social workers obviously liaising and working with them. So they could see the expertise in the different areas, which was really, really kind of powerful to watch. Now, it's offered a kind of multiple professional perspectives. So students just don't understand, don't necessarily just look at the social work role per se. They're looking at the legal roles, they're looking at what the ushers do, they're looking at police statements as well. They're seeing how it all fits together in a wider system and how other professionals may perceive us and interact within that role. By working together with the law students and the social work students as well, they were able to kind of see what each needed from each other, like what support the social work students might need from the law pupils and what information the law pupils really need as well. So that in itself, for the power of the peers, was just powerful. Students were absolutely fundamental to this, and they were very honest. They were giving us the feedback like we've just seen within the journey a minute ago, telling us what they would like with the tag teams, even making it kind of more realistic with the video. That was Claire's idea there and Joe, to bring it kind of more to life. So us as academics would be like, yes, we can try and tailor this to the learning outcomes of modules, but this wouldn't have been possible without the law pupils, without Joe, without Louise, without Hayley. We needed to work together collaboratively to make this happen. Next slide, please. Okay, the impact now. So we're going to talk to you about impact from students' perspectives. So we've got a video from students of them feeding back on their views. We're going to look at academic attainment, and we're going to look at partners and ultimately practice. So next slide, please. Okay, so like I said earlier, I've been module leading the social work law modules for MA and BA since 2021. And what we decided to do is to evaluate the intervention. We looked at student marks before they had the law modules, the cohort before, in terms of the intervention and the court skills days compared to the year after. And we found there to be a positive difference. Now, student numbers were relatively small, so we have to be kind of mindful how much we say this is significantly higher. But what we did recognise was that the students failing, I don't really like the word failing, or did not pass the modules reduced significantly. The student that didn't pass here in the 2022 did not attend the module or the court skills days, so we attributed that to attendance. We noticed that dissertation marks as well increased. So we started to see a better quality, particularly when we aligned the court skills days with the social work law module and the safeguarding module. Like I said, when we delivered this in 2022, the MA students received it first, and they had significantly better assignment marks compared to the BA students who received the intervention in the summer and had already submitted their law module assignment. So remember, this was our pilot year, and after that, we began to change it so that they could have the intervention at the same time in terms of fairness and equitability. And there's also a QR code here, which will take you to my research paper that I published in relation to this, which talks about the difference that we found in social work students' feelings of confidence in relation to a range of court skills tasks. Next slide, please. So in relation to competence, like I just mentioned, we can see here on the left was MA students' responses before they attended the law module and the court skills intervention. And then on the right is the comparison of students' responses after the module teaching and the court skills intervention. So you can see here students were asked to self-assess. They just did questionnaires before and after. And we can see that there is a greater confidence, particularly in relation to addressing a judge, knowing their expectations of them from court, giving oral evidence as well, being cross-examined, just simply entering a courtroom and writing a court report. So there's some comparisons there, and you can read more about that if you wish in the journal article on the other slide. Next slide, please. And over to Claire.
Thank you, Lauren. So I feel like we've talked a lot about how much student feedback we have gained, and so it's entirely right that we give you the opportunity to hear directly from our student cohort. So we've got 3 students that have kindly given their written feedback, and we gained that at the end of the 3 days each time and pulled that together. So it can be really practical things around how to address the judge, use of language. It can be around confidence, and all of those things we have in mind each year that we prepare. So in our next slide, Kate, if you wouldn't mind moving over, we have got a video to show you that our students have put together to tell you directly about their experience.
Hi, I'm Catherine, second year social work student. During the courts skills day, I learned so much, a lot more than I thought I would. During the process, I was a volunteer social worker, and I became more confident listening to my peers, answering questions and engaging with the judge and the panel and the solicitors. It was really an eye-opener and gave me a clear idea almost of what really goes on in court. If I was to do it again, I'd be a bit more firm and structured in my responses, especially with a mother facing concerns over possible substance misuse and neglect of her children. I would say this is a good exercise actually for students, and if anybody gets the opportunity to volunteer, I would say go for it. It looks scary from when you're sitting in the terraces, but I guess when you get there, you get a certain courage, and that thirst to learn will be your drive to, to get a bit more confident. Thank you.
I was very grateful to be part of the Court Skills Day. This was an exciting opportunity to be part of a real-world scenario where mistakes could be made in a safe environment. It helped me build confidence under pressure, to speak clearly and understand what sort of things I'll be asked under cross-examination. It also helped me develop an understanding of the legal process. It helped me be concise and know what the judge was looking for. There was a lot of information given, and I prepared a lot for it. And when it came to the actual day, I felt prepared, and it also helped encourage reflective practice. I do feel that if I now go to court, I am in a far better position to understand what the court is looking for, and I have a lot more confidence than if I hadn't done it. It was a brilliant experience, and I advocate that we do it in other universities as well.
I found the court skills days really, really helpful. It showed you all the different roles of the people that are there to support you, and that you don't need to know everything about the legal system. There's people out there that will help you in the local authority. One thing it did highlight is the importance of making sure that you evidence everything you do and case note everything you do, so when you get to the point of going to court, everything is that you needed, and it just makes it easier for yourself. When we did a mock court, I participated in that, and since being on my 100-day placement, I've been to court, and that experience of that mock court really supported me on the day. It's very, very similar, and it just gives you that confidence to understand what's going on in the legal proceedings. Prior to, on the mock court days, before you engage in that, you have time with a local authority solicitor where you go over the case and you look for any holes or any things that might get pulled apart, which is really, really important to do, but also make sure you know where to check to see what date it was signed, because when you get asked that, it's a little bit embarrassing if you don't know where it is. So just make sure, yes, have a deep dive, but also know you ask for the basic, simple questions as well. But on the flip side to that, it's a really safe environment to learn these skills, to understand how it works, so fully engage with it and learn from it.
Yeah, brilliant. A huge thank you to our students that took part in giving feedback, particularly in compiling the video together. Kate, we can have the next slide. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. So, you know, following on from Claire and Lauren, just really thinking about the impact from a practice perspective, you know, we really wanted to give the students an opportunity to be able to, you know, really come back from all of their experiences within the process. You know, they've been able to show their thinking and how to write evidence. I think when you, and Lauren spoke about it, when I was a newly qualified social worker, you know, I didn't have this when I went to university, and it would have been really, really supportive. We didn't really have it as newly qualified social workers either within the local authority. So, you know, I have definitely been able to see a difference in the practice that even the student social workers that I'm practice educator for, you know, definitely what Sarah kind of just spoke about in her video as well, you know, they're feeling more confident in their placements, they're feeling more confident when they become newly qualified social workers. But also what we really wanted to do is see the impact of them being able to present themselves within their time of giving evidence. So really thinking about how they present whilst on the stand, really thinking about, you know, not coming across defensive, being quite balanced, being able to really mentalize what it might look like for a parent on that day, because often parents within court, it's the worst day of their life. So, you know, really helping and supporting students to think about it just beyond their own role within the court arena. And like I said, I've really been able to see the impact of that as a practice educator, as an independent social worker, but also as a guardian for, you know, when I'm in court, seeing social workers giving evidence that have been to the university. So it really has had such a really positive impact. And for me, I mean, it's been an absolute honour being able to be a part of this programme, and I really enjoy it every year. And so, yeah, thank you very much. Next slide.
Brilliant. We have some feedback directly from Joe too. So Kate, if you wouldn't mind showing our video.
So moving on from what I was saying earlier, and looking at the impact of the course so far from the legal perspective, certainly what we have seen, and from the discussions with the students, is that it has been helpful for them to see everything from different perspectives. As I said earlier, when we were looking at splitting the social work students into the two teams, one for local authority, one for the mother, it helped the students to look from the different angles. So from the local authority, looking at the issues, looking at the protection of the children, looking at the evidence that was necessary for the judge to come to the decision that the local authority would hope they would come to, as opposed to looking from the parents' perspectives, listening to the evidence and coming to their own conclusions as to what they thought. It really did become clear that the impact that we had wanted had to a certain extent been achieved, where there could be those discussions between the two groups of students, looking at the reasons why they came to their decisions so they could see it from the different perspectives. So really that was a successful part of the changes that we'd made to the course, hoping to be able to bring that thought process to the students, and looking at it from the perspective of the judge, looking from the Children Act and the threshold and where we need to do the welfare balance. It meant that we could have those helpful discussions between the different groups. Also, hopefully, the demystifying part of it, so to see lawyers, to see where they come from, to understand that the questions that are being asked are on instructions, to understand that things aren't personal, even if it does feel personal sometimes when it is your work that's being criticised or it's being suggested you haven't done something. It was hoped that the students would get the benefit of that and understanding that the process is a professional process, even though sometimes it can feel that it isn't, which can impact on the way in which social workers give evidence and the confidence they have when they're in that situation. So in terms of the impact from the legal perspective, there were hopes that we could actually make it less of an intimidating situation for student social workers when they go into practice, so that they feel more able to manage the demand on them, know what the process is going to be, having understood the actual process from paperwork to evidence, to help them as they go through. And the feedback from other lawyers has been that they have noticed when social workers have been on a course such as this, when they do come to court and they feel more confident, are able to manage things. And one of the things that was quite clear from my perspective when I started the course is that a lot of the students had completed their training in COVID, which was very different. And so doing a course like this and bring it into the courtroom as much as we can in this context, I certainly have seen that it's been of benefit, and that's certainly been the feedback from other legal professionals.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jo, for providing that feedback. I wonder if we can have the next slide, please. Great. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining to hear about what we've been doing in Canterbury. Of course, you will probably have gathered that we are not leaving it as it is. We've got lots of plans moving forward to think about greater opportunity for learning, particularly around interprofessional learning, thinking about opportunity for training with our partners and practitioners in our local area. We're presenting at the Advanced HE Learning and Teaching Conference in July. So if you want to hear us talk about this all over again, that's where we'll be. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. It's been really great to share this with you. Thank you, Kate. I think we've got a slide with questions, but I'm really mindful of our time.
Thank you very much, Claire, and thank you also to Lauren and Hayley. We have got a few minutes. I'd just like to say, though, on a personal note, I do appreciate all you've shared today. I still remember qualifying as a social worker, never really expecting to be going into the courtroom, and then realizing one day it was going to happen, and not having had any experience at all, and pretty much being thrown into it on the first day. And before I come to, we have got a question from a couple of questions from the audience here, but I just wanted to ask if you were speaking to someone who was thinking about it or expressing those fears, what would you say to them?
Hayley, I wonder if you want to start with that answer. You're in your practice educator role.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I would just say take a breath. That would be the first thing, because I think sometimes when we become nervous, we overanalyze everything and we think about the worst case scenario. And often when going into court and giving evidence, it never is as bad as you think it's going to be once you've done it. But I think it's about taking a breath, taking your time, really thinking about what's being asked of you, and trying to be a balanced practitioner, because I think that's the most important thing. You know, thinking about, and I suppose I spoke about it earlier, really mentalizing about, yes, you're on the stand, yes, you're being questioned, but actually really bringing this child to life, and really demonstrating to a judge who might not know this family about the things that are positive about them, but also why you're there today and why you're worried.
Thank you, and also I remember in one of the videos, I think one of the people was talking about being almost like being prepared for things like mistakes, and just feeling comfortable and safe going into the courtroom, because if you do that, you're more likely to be able to be yourself and then and talk about what you've experienced. So I thought that was really good and really helpful. I'm just I can see what one of the questions actually is asking about any adult case studies for those wanting to go into adult roles and might also find themselves in the court process. Is that something that you cover or you're familiar with?
We're looking into that because my background's mainly adults as well, and we're thinking possibly things like mental health review tribunals, that kind of thing as well. So it's in the pipeline. We're having some thinking, and we tend to do a lot of our thinking in the summer, don't we, Claire, when our teaching stopped, and get lots of our ideas going. So yeah, it's in the pipeline. Watch this space.
Now, there's one question here which someone's been asking about using this for ongoing continuing professional development training, ongoing professional development, and I think your session can certainly be used for that. And I'll say to everybody here who's thinking of using this is to make sure think about the impact it might have on your practice. One person is asking, are you open to being contacted by other universities who might want to develop something similar?
Yes. Yeah, please connect with us. Add us on LinkedIn if you want. That'd be great. Let's connect. Yeah. We're always looking at cross collaborations and what we can do and what we can learn from you guys as well. Yeah, so our days aren't perfect. We keep refining them. But yeah, please contact us. We're great.
Brilliant. So now, thank you so much. I'm just saying, I think we are. That's all the questions that that the audience had. I think it's been really comprehensive, and so I just want to ask if there's any final sort of things you'd like to share, or is there anything else you wanted to add?
There's a chat message from Siobhan. Did you want me to read that out and respond?
Oh. Go for it.
Is that okay? Yep. It says, I may have missed this, but when in the academic year did you deliver the court skills in both the BA and MA degrees, before or after the 70-day placements, and how close to the beginning or end of the course? So Siobhan, yeah, good question. So BA students receive this in year 2 in the semester 1. So they start their their law and their safeguarding modules in September, October time, a bit into November, and then we have the court skills days end of October, November time, and that is the same with the MA students. It didn't used to be like that when we initially piloted them. The BAs would have it later on in the same academic year. So MA year 2 students also have it, and again it's before they go out on their 100-day statutory placement, and then the BAs it's before they go out on their 70-day placement. I hope I answered your question and I'm not just going around the houses. Yeah.
No, I think you did all you yeah, I've just seen a thumbs up there, so you certainly did. Okay, well, listen, I just want to say once again a final thank you. We still have a number of other sessions which are going to be taking place across the week, and everybody here is most welcome to sign up to those, and we hope to see you then. But thank you again to our speakers today. I don't know if our speakers can see it, but we've got loads and loads of claps and hearts being shown in the emoji circle. So thank you very much again, and everybody have a great day.
Thank you so much.